What if I told you some rare pennies are worth millions, and could be hiding in your pocket right now? In numismatics, knowledge is the key to finding these hidden treasures. If you found a rare coin or have one of these gems, tell us in the comments. And if you have any questions, drop them below, so don't skip a second of this video. Every detail could be the clue that leads you to your next rare coin discovery. Welcome to HD Coins World. If you love US history, rare coins, and the thrill of the hunt, you're on the right path. Let's dive in and uncover one of the most exciting hidden gems from American coinage. Number 1. It was 1941, a year filled with tension, uncertainty, and a world on the edge of war. But back home in the United States, life moved forward. Factories buzzed, newspapers printed headlines, and coins were struck by the millions at U.S. mint facilities. In Denver, one such coin would be born with a flaw so remarkable, it would become a holy grail among collectors decades later. That coin is the 1941D Lincoln Wheat penny. But not just any 1941D. This story is about the rare and mysterious errors that turn an ordinary copper cent into a prize worth thousands. Or even more. Let's start with the most exciting variety, the doubled Die Averse. This type of error happens during the die-making process. When a working die is created, it's impressed multiple times by a hub to ensure all design elements are fully transferred. But if that hub and die shift slightly between strikes, the resulting die develops a doubled image. Every coin struck from that flawed die carries a mirror of that doubling. In the 1941D Wheat penny, this doubling shows up boldly on the obverse. You'll see it in the date, especially the 1 and the 4, and in the word Liberty, where the letters appear thick, shadowed, and doubled. Lincoln's eye and jawline might also carry that eerie double impression, almost as if two faces were carved into one coin. Now, that's just the beginning. The Denver Mint in 1941 was producing coins at a rapid pace, and errors slipped through the cracks. Some 1941D cents were struck off-center, where part of the design is missing because the blank planchet wasn't aligned correctly under the die. Others were struck on clipped planchets, where a curved slice is missing from the coin, often making it look like someone took a bite out of it. These off-center and clipped errors, while less dramatic than the doubled die, still add tremendous collector value when paired with a strong mint mark and full wheat lines. So how can you tell if you've found one of these rare pieces? First, check for the DE mint mark beneath the date. That confirms it came from Denver. Next, use a magnifying glass or loupe to closely inspect the date and the word Liberty. True doubling will look like a shadowed second strike, raised and separated, not just a blur or smudge. Off-center strikes are easy to spot by eye, while clipped planchets are visible by their distinctive missing curve. But what makes these errors so valuable? Scarcity is everything in coin collecting. Most 1941D cents were struck correctly, and even those with minor flaws were spent and forgotten. Only a tiny number of doubled dies survived, and even fewer have been preserved in mint condition. Collectors and dealers have searched rolls, jars, and estates for years hoping to uncover just one example in pristine state, and when they do, the results at auction are incredible. A circulated 1941D Wheat penny with a double die error can command around $9,000. In uncirculated condition, especially those graded MS60 to MS65 or better, values can reach an astonishing $122,000. And in rare cases, when the coin is flawless, well-centered, and sharply struck, these rare pennies have sold near $500,000 at major auctions, all from a 1-cent coin struck during the calm before America's entry into World War II. So whether you're a seasoned collector or just starting your journey into the world of numismatics, don't underestimate the power of a small detail. That 1941D Wheat penny in your collection, or tucked away in a box in your attic, could be one of the rarest era coins in American history. Keep your eyes sharp. The next great discovery could be sitting in your pocket change. Number 2. Imagine holding a simple copper coin in your hand, one that millions once carried in their pockets during wartime America. But what if that very penny was secretly worth a fortune? Today, we're diving into one of the most thrilling mysteries in U.S. coin collecting, the rare 1944 wheat penny with an error that shouldn't exist. Now, most 1944 pennies were struck in copper. After all, the U.S. Mint had returned to copper after a one-year experiment with steel cents in 1943. But here's where it gets exciting. A few 1944 pennies were accidentally struck on leftover steel planchets from the previous year. And that's where the story of the rare 1944 steel penny begins. Picture this. The Denver Mint is running full speed in 1944, producing copper pennies for a country at war. Somehow, a small batch of steel blanks, those zinc-coated steel planchets meant for 1943 cents, gets mixed into the production line. The result? A handful of 1944 pennies that look silver gray, not coppery red. The mistake was never intended, but it created one of the rarest and most sought-after coins in American history. So how can you tell if you've got one? First, check the color. Real 1944 steel cents are a steely gray, unlike the copper coins. They're also magnetic, just like a 1943 steel cent. And here's the kicker. If your 1944 penny sticks to a magnet and has that sharp D mint mark just below the date, you might be holding a coin worth more than gold. But beware, many fakes exist. Some scammers tried to plate regular 1944 copper pennies with steel or shave the date off a 1943 to mimic a 1944. But authentic 1944 steel cents have a specific weight, about 2.7 grams, slightly lighter than copper pennies. That small detail can make all the difference. What makes this coin so rare isn't just the error, it's the mystery. Only a handful have ever been found, and they continue to spark debates among collectors. Was it an accident? A rogue employee? Or just a moment of chaos in the mint during wartime production? Whatever the reason, this coin has made waves at major auctions. In circulated condition, one example brought in $28,988. But in uncirculated grades like MS60 to MS65 or higher, the prices skyrocket. One of these rarities sold for as much as $115,000. And sometimes, when the bidding gets fierce, these elusive treasures can cross $500,000. Why? Because expert collectors aren't just hunting coins, they're chasing history, wrapped in copper and steel. So if you've got an old wheat penny tucked away, take a closer look. You might just uncover one of the greatest hidden treasures in American coinage. Are you checking your change drawer yet? Number 3. There's a dime out there, just 10 cents in face value, that most Americans have never seen. But for coin collectors, it's the stuff of legends. It's small, silver, and so rare that even seasoned numismatists speak of it in hushed tones. We're talking about the 1894 Barber dime, with a twist on the reverse side that continues to captivate the collecting world. Let's set the stage. It's 1894, and the San Francisco Mint is coming to the end of its fiscal year. For reasons still debated to this day, only 24 dimes were struck that year with the S mint mark. That number alone would make any coin rare, but the story gets even better. Among those 24 dimes, a few show peculiar characteristics on the reverse. One in particular is said to exhibit striking anomalies, a faint but noticeable doubling around the words, "1 dime," and along the wreath. Some experts suspect this is the result of an overused reverse die, or possibly a subtle misalignment during striking. Others believe it's a sign of rush minting, as these coins may have been struck late and quietly, for reasons that have never been fully explained. Why would the mint create just 24? One theory suggests they were minted as special gifts for bankers or dignitaries. Another whispers of a mint superintendent trying to help friends profit by creating instant rarities. Whatever the truth, only 9 of these dimes are known to survive today, and just a handful display anything unusual on the reverse. So how do you identify one? First, look for the date, 1894. Then flip it over and check for the S mint mark beneath the wreath. Only San Francisco struck this version. Look closely at the reverse. In high-grade examples, under magnification, you might see subtle irregularities in the lettering or rim that hint at rushed production or die fatigue. These minor differences are what set apart a normal rare coin from a legendary one. collectors go crazy for this dime because it combines extreme rarity, mystery, and a traceable history. Some have stories that stretch back over a century, passed down through families or rediscovered in dusty boxes. One was even found in a small change purse belonging to a little girl whose banker father gave her one of the original 24. This coin isn't just rare, it's mythical. And when it appears at auction, the numismatic world stops and watches. While other coins might start bidding in the thousands or hundreds of thousands, the 1894's Barber dime starts in the millions. Yes, you heard that right, in millions. In fact, one of these legendary coins sold at auction for more than $2 million, so the next time you come across a Barber dime, give it a second look. You never know. It might just be one of the rarest treasures in U.S. coin history, small in size, but massive in value and mystery. Number 4. Imagine this: a tiny copper coin minted during the Cold War era, tucked away in someone's pocket change, quietly holding a secret that could make it worth tens of thousands, maybe even more. We're talking about the 1953 United States 1-cent coin, a wee penny that, under the right conditions, transforms from common to absolutely legendary. Now, 1953 wasn't an unusual year for the U.S. Mint. Over 700 million pennies were struck across Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. But hidden among them are a few very special errors, mistakes that only the trained eye can catch. And those mistakes? That's where the real value lies. Let's focus on two known error types from this year that make the 1953 penny incredibly collectible: the double die and the off-center strike. The double die is a classic numismatic error. It happens during the die-making process, when the design on the coin die is accidentally impressed more than once, but slightly off. This creates a doubling effect on the letters, numbers, or even Lincoln's profile. In the case of the 1953 penny, some rare examples show doubling on the date, especially the 3, and on the word, Liberty, to the left of Lincoln's bust. You might even spot slight doubling on In God We Trust. The doubling is usually sharp and visible to the naked eye, but collectors often confirm it under magnification. Then there's the off-center strike. Imagine the coin blank not lining up properly during striking, resulting in a coin where part of the design is shifted or missing altogether. Some 1953 pennies have been found with up to 50% of the design off-center, making them stand out instantly. The more dramatic the misalignment, and the more visible the date, the higher the value. Now, let's not forget the clipped planchet error. This occurs when the metal strip used to punch out coin blanks overlaps slightly during the process, cutting out crescent-shaped sections from the coins. A 1953 penny with a clean, visible clip is a favorite among error collectors, but here's the catch: these errors are extremely rare. Out of hundreds of millions of coins, only a tiny fraction escape the mint's quality control with these mistakes intact. That's why when these error coins show up, especially in great condition, they make serious waves at auctions. So how do you know if you've struck copper gold? Start with a close look at the date and edges. Is there any doubling in the numbers or letters? Is the design misaligned or off-center? Any strange curve cut out of the coin? If so, don't spend it. This could be your lucky find. Now let's talk value. A circulated 1953 penny with a dramatic and verified error can fetch around $18,000. But if you've got one in pristine, uncirculated condition, especially in grades like MS-60 to MS-65, it could be worth as much as $98,000. And here's the wild part: at the right auction, with the right collectors in the room, these rare 1953 pennies can cross $500,000. Yes, $500,000! That's the magic of error coins. It's not just about age, it's about the unexpected, the unintentional, and the incredibly rare. So the next time you come across a 1953 wheat penny, don't ignore it. Inspect it. Study it. Because you just might be holding one of the greatest copper treasures ever made. Number 5. In the heart of World War II, as American factories buzzed and families rationed for the war effort, the U.S. Mint quietly struck millions of 1-cent coins. Most were ordinary, copper wheat pennies with Lincoln's familiar profile. But every once in a while, something went wrong. A small slip in the minting process, invisible to most, would create a coin unlike any other. That's exactly what makes the 1945 1-cent wheat penny with rare mint errors such a thrilling discovery for collectors today. The year 1945 was the final chapter of a global conflict. The mint was operating at full capacity, producing billions of coins to keep the American economy running smoothly. But high-speed production and aging equipment led to some incredible minting errors, ones that slipped past inspectors and made it into circulation. One of the most valuable and talked about errors on the 1945 wheat penny is the off-center strike. When the coin blank doesn't sit perfectly in place during striking, the design lands partially off the coin's surface. Depending on how far off-center the strike is, the coin becomes dramatically unique. A 5% or 10% off-center strike is interesting, but when it reaches 50% or more, and the full date is still visible, collectors pay serious attention. Another error found on some 1945 cents is the clipped planchet. Imagine the metal strip used to make coin blanks being misfed through the press, causing overlapping punches. The result? A penny with a curved or crescent-shaped chunk missing from its edge. It's a striking look and an unmistakable error that can increase a coin's value tremendously, but perhaps the most desirable of all is the doubled die error. This occurs when the die that strikes the coin is improperly manufactured, leaving a doubled image on the coin. On the 1945 penny, some examples show doubling in the date, especially around the 9 and 5, and in the letters of Liberty and In God We Trust. When the doubling is strong and visible to the naked eye, you've found something truly special. What makes these errors so valuable is their rarity. Out of the hundreds of millions of 1945 pennies minted, only a tiny fraction feature these dramatic mistakes. And fewer still have survived in high-grade condition. Many were spent, lost, or damaged before collectors even knew to look for them. To identify a 1945 error penny, start with a careful visual inspection. Is the date off-center? Is any part of the coin missing? Look closely at the lettering. Does anything appear doubled or distorted? Use a magnifier and check the coin's weight if needed. And always compare it with verified examples from trusted numismatic sources. Now for the part everyone loves, the value. A 1945 wheat penny with a rare error, in circulated condition, can bring in around $20,000. But if you happen to own one in near-perfect condition, graded MS-60 to MS-65 or higher, you could be looking at a six-figure payday. Some of these error coins have stunned collectors by selling for as much as $100,000. And in rare auction battles, prices have even skyrocketed near $500,000. That's the magic of US error coins. Tiny mistakes that become massive treasures. So the next time you come across a 1945 wheat penny, take a closer look. Because one small coin could tell a story of history, mystery, and maybe even fortune.